How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be featuring another Massachusetts Bee video, like the 288,000 damage game that I had posted a couple of days ago. This one is another outlier. Instead of damage, this one is in terms of XP. And to me, something like this does earn its own video instead of just being thrown into my Kraken or 3K base XP compilation, which I will also have coming out sometime this month. So it's been about 2 weeks for this December update, and well, I thought I would give my humble opinion on it. And I know that a lot of players are fairly on the upset side, although it is kind of a mixed bag with a lot of good features that were added, and then a lot of very aggressive monetization for wargaming in terms of all of the crates and essentially for players that don't have all of the premium ships from the past 3 years, well, they probably won't be able to get the Yoshino for free. Personally, I think the best thing about this update is the fact that Xbox Series X has gotten the 4K 60 FPS option. Previously, I was playing at 4K and 30 FPS, which when we play other games that do run at 4K 60 FPS coming to Legends and then having 30 FPS, was kind of disappointing. I am actually really happy that I can now play at 60 FPS, and now I do have an option to try and look into my capture card's recording capabilities and see if I can potentially upload some 4K 60 FPS videos to YouTube. So hopefully I can figure that out and potentially do that sometime in the future. Now the campaign for the Marco Polo and the Marlboro, well, I am not exactly a huge fan of Tier 8 ships, mainly because, well, Tier 7 you have very similar capabilities, but then you also have the ability to earn a boatload of credits, whereas Tier 8 has now what our Tier 7 credit earning was previously. And then obviously you do go against Legendary tier, whereas if you're playing at Tier 7, the highest you'll probably face without fail divisioning is a Tier 8, and for the most part, Tier 7s can hold their own against Tier 8 ships, which is honestly something I am both happy and disappointed about. I'm extremely happy because I can play Tier 7 and feel like I'm top tier again, how it was in the first year of this game when we didn't have Legendary tier ships. But then I'm also disappointed because, well, Tier 8, although it is a bit better than having Tier 7 against Legendaries, just doesn't feel as good going against Tier 7s, at least in my opinion. And lastly, the biggest thing for me is the fact that they released Musashi so early that it basically will not be beat by any of the battleships that are added at a later date. The only ship that I could see potentially being fun are any German battleships that have secondary capabilities. For example, if they add the Pommern, which is basically a battleship with 12 guns that are 380 millimeters, think of a bigger Brandenburg, which I will probably end up playing that for fun. So that's basically why I'm a little disappointed about campaign ships being tier 8 and honestly most of the tier 8 premiums. They just simply won't be as interesting because they've already added such good ships. They even have a Republic, which is a tier 10 on PC, as a tier 8, which would be essentially one tier lower. Anyway, enough on that. Now on to essentially the Christmas event and all of the calendars and things that you can purchase in the shop. So they do have that bundle for $100 to get 54,000 doubloons over 3 months. In my opinion, that's honestly a really good deal. As someone who does buy doubloons fairly often, $100 typically gets you around 30,000 doubloons, and while getting 54,000, you're just getting so much more over the course of 3 months, which for me isn't a huge deal, especially because I do have access to mobile, so collecting the resources daily isn't going to be a problem, and that also gives me a reason to log in and keep my bureau going. There are also daily login calendars for the Mega Santa crates, which it will give you one every day for a month, so that will be 30. And for the system, that pretty much guarantees you one premium ship. Not really sure if one premium ship of a tier 6, 7, or 8 is really worth $100, But typically my luck with crates have been a lot better, and if you haven't seen my Elbing video where I did have a crate opening at the beginning, purchasing 20 Mega Santa crates, I did get 2 Tier 7 premiums and 1 Tier 6, which the value of those was 47,500 doubloons, and I really only spent around 19-20,000 on the crates, so I definitely did get my value out of those crates. I know some players don't have the same RNG with crates that I did, and they probably did end up getting no ships out of 20 crates, although I do think that if you were willing to spend all of the money on doubloons and then crates, and honestly having the crate guarantee system, I think crates are honestly a lot better than they were previously. And then there's other daily login calendars for promotion orders, insignias, premium time, etc., which I do think are a bit expensive for some commander progression items, although, you know, if you're willing to spend it, they are there to help you level up your commanders. I personally didn't get the promotion orders or premium time. I think I did get the insignia one, simply because I do have a lot of commanders that I would like to get to 16, and, well, I am a bit of a whale. Now, there are two things that disappointed me the most with this update. The first is the fact that we didn't get training rooms. Now, I understand that they didn't guarantee us getting training rooms, but it is still a little unfortunate. But considering the fact that the mode simply didn't work and it was probably plagued with bugs, as someone who does test things to make sure it works as a super tester, I am on the side of having these things work before they are released, because then if it's released not working properly, then obviously you're going to have a bunch of players complaining pretty much the same amount or more about the mode not working, just like they were, you know, giving their feedback about not getting training rooms. The second thing that I am actually fairly disappointed about are the winter ships, the Georgia, Algerie, Maz, and the Hugo. Now, the Maz and Algerie, they are at least premiums compared to their tech tree counterparts, and then also have some slight differences in their performance. However, the Georgia and Hugo are exact copy pastas, which is a bit disappointing. I would have preferred there be some sort of difference that would warrant getting those ships. Now, my knowledge as to why they simply release these ships as copy pastas are because they are trying to allow players who don't have them to get them, although I don't understand why they couldn't simply just re-release the original Georgia and then simply release the winter camo for doubloons or even like the winter shards. Even though I got the Georgia W out of a crate, I simply have no intention of playing it because it's the same exact thing as the Georgia, and having to spend credits to arm the ship with modules and whatnot, I just simply don't want to waste it. My ideal Georgia W would have simply been a ship closer to Massachusetts, getting a 7-kilometer base secondary range, and then losing the 40-second heal, and then just getting a standard battleship heal. Honestly, probably would have been a boatload of fun and simply wouldn't power creep the Massachusetts. One of the things about the Georgia, even though it has quick reloading main battery guns and also very high AP alpha, is the fact that the AP DPM and broadside weight of the shells are actually less than the American battleships that have 9 guns. And at tier 7 for having 457mm guns, you don't exactly overmatch a whole lot more ships, and honestly you can probably do just as well or better just using the 406mm battleships. So the Massachusetts and Georgia will perform similarly but excel in different areas. And then for the Hugo W, the Hugo already sits in the shop, so there's really not much of a point to, I guess, re-releasing a copy pasta, just so that there's another camo for it and a different premium ship. I honestly thought back on Black Friday when they started releasing ships with slight differences like the Bismarck B and then even the La Foudre, the ships simply performed differently, and I thought they were finally going down that route where if there's another ship that's essentially the same ship, it will have some sort of slight difference to create a different variation of gameplay. Although they are simply doing the same thing, having two ships that have a slightly different playstyle, and then The rest of them are just simply copy pastas for players to buy. For me personally, I am pretty much sitting right in the middle of this update, not really towards that it's a good update or that it's a bad update. If they didn't include the 4K 60 FPS and I didn't have good RNG when buying and opening crates, this probably would have been one of the more lackluster and disappointing updates for me. The 4K 60 FPS is really carrying this update in terms of quality for me. So if that didn't exist, yeah, I really wouldn't be happy about this update. Also, during their December update stream, they did mention the future of warships with updates to the French destroyers getting an extra main battery reload booster and nerfing the torpedoes, buffing the main battery, and then also allowing the Italian cruisers to swap out HE for SAP in the January update. These are all excellent additions and something that I'm actually looking forward to, which also adds to my disappointment of this update because I simply don't really care about this one and I'm just looking forward to the next one. With that being said, looking at our score since the game did end, 202,000 damage, Kraken, Dreadnought, Close Quarters Expert, Confederate, Clear Sky, High Caliber, and a Devastating Strike. 900,000 credits and only using a rare booster. Using an epic definitely would have been over 1 million. And our base XP is pretty much right there at 3,900, which is, I think, the highest base XP that I've gotten in Massachusetts. Not sure if I've broken 4K yet, but this one is definitely up there for the base XP score, which is why I had this game in its own video instead of just throwing it in with the compilation, because this game stood out so much more. Going into my build, I do mess around with the second upgrade slot using the damage control system or propulsion mod. Usually depends on how I'm doing and what the day of playing has been like. Optimus Prime, Revocation Protocol, Porcupine, Firefighter, Master Mechanic, and Running with Scissors, Haruna, and Hipper as my inspirations for my secondary build. I think out of all the builds that I've messed with in the Massachusetts, this is probably my favorite and will be my go-to for the foreseeable future. And now looking in port, I actually have the basic credit booster, not the rare one. I'm sure if I had the rare, maybe that would also be closer to 1,000,000 credits. But still, ultimately a very good game. That's pretty much it I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more, and share it with your friends, or leave a comment down below for other ships you want to see in the future. But until next time, aloha.